So over the past few months, there's been 3 serious terrorist attacks in England. So let's just briefly go over each one. On March 22nd, there was an attack on Westminster Bridge and at the Palace of Westminster, where about 40 people were injured and there were 6 fatalities, including 1 police officer and the perpetrator. On May 22nd, there was the suicide bombing at an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, killing 23 people and injuring 119 people. And this past weekend on June 3rd, there was a terrorist incident on London Bridge involving a van with 3 perpetrators, where at least 10 people, including the attackers, died and 48 people got injured. So any normal functioning brain could see that terrorism exists currently, and there's a problem happening now. But if you're Boris Johnson, former mayor of London and conservative, then you see things a little differently. So here's what he tweeted. Very, very, very clear. Corbyn will never protect us against our enemies. But wait a second. Who's the prime minister right now? It's not Jeremy Corbyn. It's Theresa May. So if Corbyn can't protect you against your enemies, is Theresa May currently protecting you against the enemies? Because it doesn't appear that way. And in fact, it may even be partially her fault. Because under Theresa May, there have been massive cuts to the police force. And here's the Guardian article on this. Simple numbers tell story of police cuts under Theresa May. And if we look at the graph, we can see that since Theresa May became Home Secretary in 2010, the number of police officers has fallen by 21,500 people. So 21,000 less police officers since 2010. Now, imagine if this happened under Jeremy Corbyn. Right now, if you're a conservative, if you're a supporter of Theresa May, what if Jeremy Corbyn was the Home Secretary and he cut 21,000 police officers from the force since 2010? Would you be blaming him right now for what's happening? Because if you're claiming now that Jeremy Corbyn won't keep you safe, you can't claim that Theresa May will, because she's not. But you might be saying, no, there's no direct connection. No one saw this coming. It's just completely random. Nobody knew this could happen. Well, here's a video from 2 years ago from a one-time Community Police Officer of the Year, Damien O'Reilly. And here's what he said to Theresa May in 2015.
Greater Manchester Police. Home Secretary, you'll remember in November 2010, you presented me with Community Police Officer of the Year award. I say that conference, forgive me, just to show that I do know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, I had worked in inner city Manchester for 15 years. I felt passionate about what I was doing. In 2012, I had to leave. I couldn't take it anymore because the changes that have been imposed have caused community policing to collapse. That's the reality, ma'am. Intelligence has dried up. There aren't local officers. They don't know what's happening. They're all reactive. There's no proactive policing locally. That is the reality, ma'am. And Mark Rowley just mentioned neighbourhood policing was critical to dealing with terrorism. We run the risk here of letting communities down, putting officers at risk, and ultimately risking national security. I'd ask you to seriously reconsider the budget and the level of cuts over the next 5 years.
So just a couple quotes from what O'Reilly said. Neighborhood policing is critical to dealing with terrorism, and we're ultimately risking national security. So here you have a police officer in 2015 warning of what could potentially happen with all these cuts to the police force. Directly warning that without neighborhood policing, there could be an increased risk of terrorism. Now, while Theresa May is cutting money to the police force, Corbyn actually wants to invest and put more money into it and increase the amount of police officers on the streets. So who are you actually safer under? Theresa May or Jeremy Corbyn? You tell me.